Awesome. Thanks, Darrell. I'll do a quick sound check and make sure we are cooking con. Well, I just forgot the Spanish word for gas. Con. It's not huevos. All right. Well, fantastic. Well, no, it's awesome. So I'm super excited tonight. So this is kind of the first time that Carolyn and I have done kind of a joint webinar together. We've, gosh, worked together for like 10 years, and it's one of those things where it's kind of funny because it's like, she's got her work, which I completely respect, and then I've got my setups, and I've just kind of talked her off and on and said, all right, look, your work the best. I'm just going to rely on that. I'm just going to rely on your work to kind of help me out. Just do me a favor. If you ever see me taking a trade and I'm not respecting your work, like I'm just focused on my setup, can you just pull out the whip and beat me to a pulp? And she's like, with pleasure. So it's actually worked out really well that way. And gas natural. So what I wanted to do tonight is then, it's what's interesting about this, and the reason we're doing this is that we're getting a lot of questions in this current market environment just about, gosh, one of the things I like to talk about is cycles. Everything kind of moves in cycles, and a couple things like that. And the downside of a lot of cycles is that the way they're set up, it takes weeks. They have windows of weeks to months for a price move to actually potentially end, right? Well, if an average trade lasts 2 to 4 days or 2 to 4 weeks, and you've got a window of weeks or months for a high or low to take place, it's absolutely garbage, all right? And Carolyn has actually honed this down where she's, narrowed it down to days, and then for day trades within hours. And it's changed a lot of people's lives. And so what I want to do is just kind of go through and just kind of share some of the ideas and things like that she has identified and developed over the years, and essentially is one of the foremost experts on the planet on. For those of you that already follow Carolyn's work, you already know this. And for those of you that don't, it's really just kind of an introduction to, hey, if you're not aware of her work, this is what you're missing out on. And this is kind of, it's fairly important. So did Fib Queen recruit my wife Maria to do the beating? I like where you're going with that. So I like that. All right. So what are we going to talk about tonight? So some of what you can expect to take away from tonight's webinar, and how we're going to do this tonight is I'm going to kind of go through some stuff, and then and Carolyn will talk as well, and then I'm going to go through some stuff, and then we'll just kind of sit there and just kind of answer questions and things like that. But some of what you can expect to take away from tonight's webinar, okay? The idea with this is, first, learn how to predict the high probability setups with at least a 1 to 4 risk reward ratio, okay, risking 1 to make 4. Now, there's a couple things to keep in mind here, is that these don't happen a lot. So it's learning how to identify them, okay? And what I found with this is that once people learn Carolyn's work and once they understand how it works, their trading life gets a lot easier because they learn to wait, all right? And it's the gift of clarity of waiting, okay? And we'll talk more about that, but I think that's one of the more important things of Carolyn's work. I tell this story that when I was first kind of getting into the business of working with traders, gosh, this was probably more than 10 years ago, but there was once a quarter, I would bring in 4 to 5 people into our offices, and we would do kind of a one-on-one personal mentorship for like 3 to 4 days. So by, a group of like 3 or 4 of us, and we'd sit around the computer all day trading. And at the time, my niece, Adelita, was working with me that summer as kind of an intern, and I was supposed to show her trading. And it was one of those things, here's this 15-year-old girl, she kind of babysat her kids once in a while. She didn't really talk much, she was kind of goth. But once I, kind of laid out a simple strategy for her, what was great about that is, because she really didn't care about trading that much, is that if there wasn't a setup, she learned to wait, okay? And by waiting, she missed out on a lot of the crap moves and was able to take a 10K account and turn it into $18,000 over the course of a summer, trading yen futures and E-mini Dow futures, right? And so that's the kind of thing, was that when you get a simplified setup and you learn to wait, you learn to identify the times when to not be in the market, all right, that's when this stuff gets a lot easier. And so one of the main things I like about Carolyn's work, and it's the part that is probably the least obvious, is that you have clear guidelines when to STFO, which means stay the heck out of the market. And that's a huge, huge win for most traders. From there, and then of course, what you're doing is you're waiting for those high probability setups where your ability is that you can risk 1 point to make 4 points, okay? And or whether that's 10 points to make 40 points, but it's risking about a 1 to make 4 at the lowest end, okay? It could be more than that. And then the importance of projecting well in advance the price zones which have the greatest probability of support, resistance, and trend change. All right, I want to say this again. The importance of projecting well in advance the price zones which have the greatest probability of support, resistance, and trend change. And then the last piece of this, because this is the piece that if you're not familiar with this kind of work, goes over, like, people just don't understand that this is actually something that influences the market movement, right? The importance of projecting well in advance the time window, okay, where the greatest probability of trend change will occur. This is probably the single most important part of the work that has had the biggest impact in the traders that I've talked to, because first of all, they didn't realize that this was actually a thing, and then once they did realize it and they learned just to wait for it, their trading got a lot easier. Okay, and so that's the kind of stuff I get excited about, because it's like, look, this is work that's been here for a long time. It's complicated, but Carolyn has been doing this for decades, has got it down to a science, is the foremost expert on the planet on it, and she's the one that can kind of show you how to do it. So what I'll kind of talk about here is, what I've learned from the whip. That's kind of my nickname for Carolyn, because anytime I don't listen to her and I ignore her setups, she kind of tallies that up, and the next time we see each other, she pulls out her whip, and I've said, look, yeah, if I am doing a setup and I, for some reason, I've got a lot of stuff going on, I got kids, we've got a company here, there's a lot of data that I look at, and sometimes if I'm not paying attention, I might look at something and say, man, this looks great, I'm going to buy some. And she's like, hey, John, there's timing for a high there. I'm like, oh. And so when she does that, it saves me a lot of grief and frustration, and I always appreciate it. Benefits to a 3D strategy. So what do I mean by 3D strategy? What I mean there is that everybody just kind of looks at charts, which is price, right? It's really three-dimensional, okay? There's time, all right? There's price, there's symmetry. There's a lot of things involved here that are not included on a normal chart. And if you don't have that into account, you're missing the boat. Why the financial press is always wrong. My goals, i.e. what I want you to gain from this, you're going to hear a little bit from the queen herself, and then we'll do some Q&A. So way back when I was learning, so this was in the, gosh, I think it was maybe it was the early 2000s. I don't even remember. I just, time flies when you're having fun. But at one point, there was a period of the first 8 years of my trading career. I was learning a lot. I was going to a lot of Investors Business Daily. There's a lot, I was going to a lot of Investors Daily conferences, and I was going to the Trader Expos and things like that. And I remember sitting in on a talk, and Carolyn was up there talking, and she was going through all this stuff, and there was something that she said that just clicked in terms of being able to look at a market and then extrapolate from 3 different items where a trend was likely to end and at what price. And that was the first time that I'd heard and understood that concept, and it hit me with the full importance of it. Now, if you guys know Carolyn, you'll love this. So I raised my hand, and she's sitting there talking. She's like, yeah, what do you want? And I asked, I don't even know what I asked, something like, well, how do you know which level is going to hold? She's like, that's not really a good question. Does anybody else have any good questions? And so that was my first introduction to Carolyn, but it's great. I think, gosh, we've been working together for over 10 years, and it's always awesome. So yeah, it was so funny. I was just like, I wish I had, knowing what I know now, I would have, we've gotten more pictures, documented that on film. Would have been amazing. So for a trading journey, one of the most important steps in achieving consistent trading results is to be able to project the extent of trends, okay, and the time and price reversals in advance. Okay, this is a concept that most of the time what you're going to hear is for people that are not aware that this is a concept that actually exists. They're going to tell you, you can't predict where a market's going to, you can't do that. You just go with the flow. And I'm a big proponent of going with the flow, but you go with the flow, but at the same time, you can look out days and weeks and see with a high probability where a move is likely to terminate, okay? And there's a lot you can do with that information, all right? And to make money trading, you have to be doing something differently than the majority of traders that are unsuccessful. You know, the whole idea that 90% of day traders lose money. Well, what are they all doing? You know, it's like, oh my God, here's they buying breakouts, or they shorting the breakdowns, or they're just kind of, the whole stuff there, but it's not working for them. Okay, that's why the market just spits these people up, grinds them, churns them out, and keeps on moving on. But for the people that have learned to sidestep all the noise and identify those moments in time where you're going to get a high probability timing-based reversal, it's a whole different ballgame. Okay, and if you don't understand all that, all you're doing for the most part is trading on a coin flip. So let's look at a couple of examples of this. And for those of you that have never seen her work, I mean, this is the kind of stuff that I just love. So for my normal stuff, okay, now normally, so for me, there wasn't a squeeze here, okay? And again, I'm just going to tell you how I would look at this first through my eyes, and then I check with Carolyn, right? So I'm looking at this going like, all right, the trend is your friend. The moving averages here are stacked positive. These are the moving averages I like to use in order of appearance. It's the 8, the 21, the 34, the 55, and the 89. Okay, and those are all Fibonacci sequencing numbers. And so my general philosophy is, okay, if the trend is higher, that means, basically, how do you define an uptrend? That means that the moving averages are stacked positive, and then any pullbacks to the 21 or the 34 EMA are buying opportunities, all right? And generally that works pretty good. Now there's added stuff here if there happens to be a squeeze. I really like it when that happens, but in this case there wasn't one on the daily S&P chart. But so if you're looking at this, then based on everything I just said, then it's like, okay, great. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to set up a pullback to buy the next pullback to the 21 with the expectation that we're going to go to 29.50. Because if I'm looking at the markets from a one-dimensional process, which in this case I am, I'm just looking at the chart, then I don't have any reason to believe that the trend is going to end, right? The trend is your friend until it ends. But the question here is, what if you could have a tool that would tell you in advance the likelihood that the trend, in fact, is going to end, okay? So that's where it gets interesting. So now you can see here, okay, so this is on September 20th, okay? And we all know what happened next, but let's go ahead and take a look. And we can see here that on September 20th, when the market looked so great, right? Okay, the market looks so great. And a lot of times people say, well, Powell came out and said we're a long way from neutral, and that's why this happened. Okay, fair enough. But the main thing here is that shortly thereafter, with quote unquote no warning, okay, from what I would just call the standard indicator set, this particular price zone at this particular time turned out to be the end of the uptrend and a major reversal, okay? And the question is, who knew? Well, what's interesting here is that one of the most fascinating aspects of Carolyn's work, and this is kind of what grabbed me by the lapels when I was watching her presentation, because I didn't even know that this was something that you could do, is that she had learned a way to show high probability time reversals on specific dates, okay? And this is something that she posted on Twitter on September 21st and just said, hey, for the S&P 500, we got cash timing charts that give us a heads up that we may terminate the recent rally, okay? More details on the updates, and you can see here the numbers 90 and 83. That means that there's a very high probability, okay, that this move is going to terminate at that time. Now, when you see something like that, it's like, okay, well, that's in hindsight, right? No, this was like these are numbers that were flashing a week, 2 weeks before it happened, okay? So if you know something like that, if you're sitting there going like, okay, wow, this market's going higher, but right here, you're seeing that, man, up here, it's flashing that we've got a time and price signal, that's great. Then you start, tightening up your stops and you're cautious and you're aware that that's going to happen because nobody else is aware that is going to happen, okay? So if we go here and say, all right, so now we're sitting here in January, right? So this termination of the move, it was known in advance, okay? It's like, okay, is that what you're saying, John? And well, then surely the financial press saw this coming, right? And of course, the financial press warned everybody about this, right? So these are some great articles that came out. So this was on September 27th. Okay, so on September 27th, so much for September being awful for stocks. Bell, I see a 7% gain for the S&P 500 over the next 12 months. Okay, Again, that was on September 27th. The financial press is looking at the prices. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that. So my one of my mentors was Peter Borish. He wrote the foreword for my book, Mastering the Trade. He was the head of research for Paul Tudor Jones. His main maxim to me, he had two, but one was price, first price, then news. Okay, so what does that mean? If price is going higher, the news journalists who know nothing about the markets, okay, and no offense to them, they're not traders, they're journalists. Their job is just to report, anything that's happening. So if the markets are going up, they're going to then look at their Reuters feed or whatever, and they're going to see all the news stories. And if the markets are going up, they're going to say, oh, that one sounds positive, that one sounds positive, that one sounds positive. Okay, great. Markets going up. Looks like markets are going to keep going up for the next 12 months, okay? Of course, if the market's going down, then they're going to look at the same list of stories and say, oh, that one seems negative and that one seems negative, so that's why we're going down, right? So it's always first there's the price, then the news reacts to price. It is not the other way around. So this is the best one, though. So if you were just relying on news, okay, and you didn't have the tools of timing, you didn't have the tools that Carolyn utilizes, this is the kind of stuff that could happen. So you're sitting there at September 5th, okay? And let's go back and see where the markets were on September 5th. So on September 5th, which is about right here. So it's actually a good entry point, all right? So I'll give them that. September 5th was a pretty solid, let's call it right here. All right, perfect entry point, great. September 5th, you could buy the S&Ps right here, and then you enjoyed a rally for the next 10 days, okay, before the market actually collapsed. And so if you had followed the advice here that came out on September 5th in CNBC, you'd have been happy for about 12 days. And the idea here is like, okay, gosh, so what the advice that they were giving here when the S&P was at 2,900 was basically don't expect historical trends to stop the unstoppable bull markets this time, says Wall Street's biggest bull. Through the year end, we're going to have somewhere between a 5 and 10% gain. Canaccord Genuity's chief market strategist told CNBC, a 5% gain from Tuesday's close takes the S&P to a range of 3041 to 3186. So again, the news, the financial news that's supposed to be protecting us, all they're doing is reacting to price. They don't understand what's happening in the market. They don't understand cycles, and they're throwing out information that really can hurt people, okay? So, exactly, Rick. So at the end of the day, what's going on here is that the market is a dynamic place where emotions can change in an instant, okay? I love tools like the squeeze. If you guys are familiar with my work, the squeeze is my favorite. But at the end of the day, relying on indicators alone isn't enough, okay? Especially with how quickly the news is spread these days with social media and Twitter, which causes emotional-based exits. And we saw firsthand how that works over the last couple months. So at the end of the day, if you're trading right now and you're trading like, well, I feel like this is going to go up, or you're making a trade based on, well, I feel like this is going to go down, that's not trading. This is called going along for the ride to see what happens. And it's also known as trading career ending soon. Okay, and so part of my objectives for this is to get, for any of you that are trying to trade with your gut and you're sitting there and you're trying to impose your will on the market, like, okay, this market's bearish, and now that I'm going to short this turd. Okay, that's all based on feeling. It's not based on objective, accurate, three-dimensional time and price analysis, okay? And if you're in a situation right now where you're frustrated by the markets, and this was not even a class that we had planned. It was based on, because of the way the markets are acting and seeing that how, for folks that are newer to this concept that don't understand it, this is the chance to step in and learn this. You can actually make this a lot easier for yourself. Trading should not be difficult. So let's look at a couple of other examples here. So, Rockman, I totally agree. I love it when I think even in December there was a class, or there was a advertisement on CNBC on how to short, like on December 23rd. So it's like, okay, it's time to buy, which was a pretty pretty close to that little reversal there. So Yeah, Anthony, totally agree. Totally agree. So, so let's look at Amazon here. And again, now we already know at this point that the markets have topped. I love this right here because if you're looking at Amazon right here, it's like, all right, we got the big sell-off. We came up to the 21. It got rejected. We made a lower low. We closed up above the 21, and we're having this incredible day here. Not awesome volume, but certainly an uptick in volume there. And that is like one of the most bullish candlesticks. Okay, it's a very, very bullish candlestick, right? You look at that same candlestick here, you explode higher, right? Same candlestick here, you explode higher. So it's a very bullish candlestick. And so the idea from here is like, man, I'm gonna buy. I'm even, gosh, I'm willing to buy it here and hold through the next pullback with the idea that this thing's going to 2,000. Heck, Amazon's probably going to new all-time highs here based on this action. Okay. So what happened? Well, if you've been watching Amazon, you know what happened, that was the exact high of the move, okay? And then Amazon went almost straight down 500 points. So again, the question is this something that we could have known in advance, okay? And yes, what happened with this is that the time essentially for this trend to end, okay, and this is based on a lot of different things, but this is all based on cycles that can get narrowed down to days instead of weeks and months. But it flashed up on here, and this is again about a week before this happened, saying, by the way, December 2nd. Now there was a day here, I think, when the markets were closed, but or maybe it wasn't that, but essentially there's two windows here, December 2nd and 3rd, and the 5th and 6th, where it is very, very likely that the move in Amazon has reached its time projection termination. And at that point, you'd look for a trend reversal, okay? This was something that Carolyn set out about a week and a half before that move in Amazon. So what would happen in something like this is that for people who are long Amazon, okay, they had the ability. So, that signal came out here. All right. And then December 2nd and 3rd was here. So it's like, okay, great. You can still stay long, but just start taking chips off the table, start taking chips off the table, start taking chips off the table. And then when it comes down, at that point, you ain't buying the dip because you know that it's coming down with a timing high. And in fact, you could reverse and go short at that time. That's the difference between like, okay, well, I think I have a feeling that this is going to go higher, so I'm going to buy this, and then I'm not going to believe, okay, that this is a real decline because it's, of course it's going up, right? Have you ever gotten so blindsided by something where you're like, I know this is going up, that you just kind of ignore the fact that it's going down. You ignore the fact that it's going against you. But when you have some tools like this, it's black and white, okay, and you don't want to fight it. So that's what's amazing about this. Will this work on intraday trading on futures? Yes. So I love doing this on the S&Ps and the NASDAQ, and you can do it like on 15-minute time frames, 60-minute time frames, and you can narrow these timing windows down to about an hour. Okay, they're fantastic for that. So this is kind of what I mean when I talk about three-dimensional trading. Look, I love indicators. I use indicators, but that is one-dimensional trading. There are other things going out there. There are cycles that are taking place that most retail traders don't understand or don't see or aren't aware of. And for a lot of the stuff that's out there, if they talk about quote unquote cycles, they're giving you a window of like, well, we should probably see a high in crude oil between Q3 and Q4. Okay, that's a worthless cycle for a trader. As a trader, we're like, okay, I need to know within 2 days, right? If I'm going to have a swing trade for a couple weeks, I got to know within 2 days if this is a potential cycle high or a cycle low that I can trade against, okay? Or if I'm day trading, I need to know within a window of about an hour if this is an intraday cycle high or intraday cycle low that I can trade against, okay? I don't need this weeks and month crap because it's not going to help me make any money, all right? So that's why I have found, and I do follow a lot of different cycle analysis, a lot of it, especially the more macro stuff, is interesting, but from a trading perspective, it's absolutely worthless. Okay, giving ranges of weeks to months, you don't want to hold something that's going to go against you for months before it pans out. That's a way to get wiped out. So the way that Carolyn has set up this work is this is price narrowed down to precise narrow date ranges with values in place to show the higher probability date and time when a trend is likely to end. Okay. Now, what we've done with this is we've shown the termination of a couple of uptrends, but the question also comes up is like, okay, can this stuff also work if a market is tanking? And by the way, it's great right now because we've got this volatility to show these extreme examples, but this stuff was doing the same thing right along in here as well. So, here you can see Amazon, we saw that was the cycle high right there, okay? But also the question is, well, at some point, is there going to be a cycle low that is a high probability time and price three-dimensional zone to buy against in order to participate in a potential bounce? Because remember, here is the end of the world, okay? Here it's like, oh, the markets are never going to bounce again. Yet, when we dive in here and we can see this is actually one of the highest readings I've seen on this. We got a reading of 103 on December 24th. That is a huge probability of a time and price reversal on that day. Okay, that's the key, on that day. All right. So it's not like, oh, okay, we're pulling back, here's support. No, we're talking time. Okay. Yeah, this thing's going to keep rallying until the 20th, and then it's going to die. Or this thing's going to fall till the 24th, and then it's going to die. So it's understanding that time. Okay, that time. In this case, December 24th was the most likely day for a bottom and a trend reversal. Okay, that's the stuff that gets kind of exciting here. And then you can see from there what happened. So December 24th, it looks like the end of the world. And from there, we've rallied almost 350 points. Okay, and now, guess what? Yes, we are setting up for some more timing coming into place. But at that point, in this case, here the high likelihood of a trend reversal, and here the high likelihood of a trend reversal. So guess what? If you're first coming into Carolyn's work and the levels here and the levels here, and we're trading right here, you're not going to do anything, right? You're going to wait. You're going to wait because you're going to wait for that high probability. The beautiful thing about this is that once you get used to this, you'll stop doing trades that are not in alignment with this work. Now, I still will use squeezes and things like that in alignment with this work because I think it gives me a little bit of an extra edge, but I won't go against this stuff. Hey, there's a squeeze about to fire along. It's like, John, there's timing high. Oh, never mind. My bad. We're not going to do this one. All right. That's how important it is. So yes, I love a squeeze setup. And almost in every indicator I stack the squeeze up against, I always say the squeeze always wins. The squeeze always wins. Unless Carolyn comes to me and says, John, I know you got a squeeze. I know it's a perfect setup for you, but I've got timing for a high. Look, it's like, okay. Thank you for telling me. Guys, this is a squeeze I'm going to pass on. Okay, that is the only thing that supersedes the squeeze. And the reason for that is that the squeeze is based on one thing, and that is price. Okay, so you got narrow price range, which narrows of the that's a narrowing of the Bollinger Bands, which means it's a compression of volatility, which means we're getting ready for a big move. And that's great. I love that, but it is one-dimensional. It is just price. Okay. So remember, there are other dimensions working as well concurrently in the markets. These are the things that you don't see. These include the length of time a move can run based on a variety of cycles that are in play. Again, none of which are evident on the chart. Time and symmetry measure with mathematical precision the projected date and price level where a move is likely to terminate. Okay, and without this information, a trader is flying blind, literally flying blind if you don't understand how that operates. There are also many larger cycles at play. Okay, these cycles provide windows of weeks to months that a trend change will occur, and that's really useless for shorter term trading. And what I like about what Carolyn has done is that for swing trades, she has figured out how to narrow this down to a few days. And for day trade, she has figured out how to narrow this down to just a few hours. So by narrowing the time ranges, she has provided a highly useful piece of information for where to make a high probability decision. And at the end of the day, as traders, this is gold. Okay, this is all we want. Okay, we just want highly useful pieces of information from where we can make a high probability decision. Okay. All right, so I've talked for enough. What I'd like to do now is again, I know a lot of you know Carolyn, you're fans of Carolyn's work, and which is awesome. And what I always like to do is, Carolyn, is if you wanted to hop on, I was just going to have you, for those that don't know Carolyn and have never, like, who's Carolyn Boroden? She's got a fascinating story. I was just going to have her come on, spend about 10, 15 minutes just kind of talking about her background, how and why she's kind of doing this, this type of trading. And then, yeah, and then I'll just kind of dive back on and we'll keep going from there.
Okay, thank you, John. That was actually a lot of fun to watch how you see my work and how it's developed over the years. And I'm really not used to talking about myself as much as talking about the work, but I will give you my background. I did grow up on Long Island in New York, and basically quit high school, ran away from home starting at 15. And then really officially ran away to Wall Street when I was 18. So I got a job at Donaldson, Lufkin and Jenrette when I was 18 years old, and the rest is history. Oh yeah, Long Island's good, but I haven't been back in a while. And then basically I relocated to Chicago when I was 20 years old and worked on the trading floor of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, starting as a phone clerk. Okay. Now, my introduction to technical analysis was that I took a class at the CME on technical analysis based on the Technical Bible by McGee and Edwards, the technical analysis of stock trends. So that was really my introduction to analysis. And at that time, we didn't even have computers available to us. Okay. So I bought my paper charts at the exchange. It was called the Commodity Perspective. I think it cost us like, 10 or 12 bucks per book. And I did all my work basically on paper charts. Then I met my mentor, Robert Miner, at a seminar, and it was at what is now called the W in Chicago. But I met him just after the crash of '87, and literally that's when the light bulb went on. I mean, that is exactly the way I felt, because I was sitting in his presentation and I was new to Fibonacci, but when he started talking about using Fibonacci on the time axis of the market, all I remember was a little voice in my head that said, "This is your future." And that was the beginning of my career as a technical analyst. I mean, since then, I've developed my own methodology and trading service. I've written my first book called, Fibonacci Trading, How to Master the Time and Price Advantage. And I also write and do analysis for Jim Cramer, which sometimes you'll see on CNBC's Mad Money. So the methodology I'm going to give you an introduction to is based on using the Fibonacci ratios on both the time and price axis of the market. And the reason why this is different than what most people use is, they talk about timing the markets, but they're actually timing the markets using the price axis of the market. Okay. What I'm doing is I'm actually doing timing of the markets on the time axis. Now, there are a few people that do this, but there aren't that many. And I just call it Fibonacci time and price analysis. Oh, good. I'm glad you're enjoying the book. I think the book will help you a lot. It gives you a really good basis for, every single thing that I do. The only thing that I do need to do is, actually, I've already pitched it to McGraw-Hill, is to do a book that includes counter trend setups and how you do those. So as far as Fibonacci time and price analysis, it is a method that clearly defines risk on a trade setup. Okay, because I'm going to give you either symmetry setups or two-step pattern setups or Fib cluster setups. Now, cluster setup is the coincidence of at least 3 Fibonacci price relationships that come together within a relatively tight range. Now, it's also a method that provides trade targets. So, that's something that we'll talk about. Now, the trade targets will be different in a trending market versus a non-trending market. And that's something that we will go over next Saturday. And it's also a method with a healthy risk-reward ratio. So typically, it's at least 1 to 4 at a minimum. So, to risk 1 to make 4, but the maximum is not limited. There are some trade setups where you're only risking maybe 15 points on a NASDAQ trade. And by the end of the session, well, with this volatility recently, you might get 100 NASDAQ points out of it with that minimum risk. Okay, and again, it's also a method where we're analyzing the actual time axis of the market, which can give you a huge edge over other traders because nobody else will see it unless you do this particular type of work. They're never looking at real timing of the markets. Most of them are looking at, the price analysis and saying, well, yeah, I'm gonna time the market because my indicators said that this is, oversold or overbought. But it's also a method where you can use triggers, okay? And a trigger is eventually, or not eventually, but actually price action that tells you that it's worth placing a bet against one of the zones that I set up. And it will help to filter out the trade setups that are not likely to work out. And it also gets you into the ones that are more likely to play out, okay? These next few charts are actually a bit of a teaser to show you how valuable, the timing work can be. I mean, I think John already did a good job of showing you that, but this is, one of the charts that I wanted to show you to keep you interested. So this is a chart of the QQQ, the daily, in other words, basically the NASDAQ ETF. And one of the things that we did here was I ran a timing cluster, and this you'll find on DT. You can still do timing factors on Thinkorswim and some of the other programs, with the cycles by themselves. But as far as the histogram is concerned, this is, on the dynamic trader software. So what I did was I projected from this last high that was made in the Qs to look for when it was more likely to see the next low. And there was a standout timing, 1223 to 1225. I'm not sure if you can see that. It's a little bit difficult to see on the lower left-hand side. You'll see it says low 1223, 1225, QQQ. And that's where the histogram comes in. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I know for sure that this is going to happen, but you coordinate this with triggers. So if we traded down into that time window, which we did, I don't want you to step in front of the freight train, but what I want you to look for are buy triggers that tell you that, yes, the timing is indeed kicking in for a possible low. And then here's what it looked like on the histogram. So here you had the high scores here on the left-hand side of this chart here. And you can see that the highest scoring dates were 1224, 1225. Okay, this histogram actually is a calendar day projection, so it will also show you dates that the market's not actually trading, but you look at these plus or minus a day of the cycles for possible change in trend, and then you wait for your signals to tell you that it's worth placing a bet on the buy side. All right, I think actually I'm done with my side of it, John. So are you ready to take back over?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'll hop back onto this. And all right, let me see. Can you guys let's see. In theory, you should see a slide 34. Now, how do you trade this? And awesome stuff, Carolyn. I think the main thing there too is I don't think a lot of people kind of had heard your story. Like, people think like, Carolyn has been doing this for, it's like, talk about grit. Someone who's like decided that, the home situation wasn't great, left that, ends up on Wall Street, right? The rough and tumble floor, battles it out with all these other traders, and then finds a system that works for her, continues to develop over the time, and has used it for years and years and years and years. Jim Cramer brings her on to real money. And also what you'll find here shortly is that, when I talk to people and I go to Traders Expos and we have our classes and people email me, I'm always like, hey, what's the thing that you've actually found that's helped you most consistently? And the most consistent answer to that, okay, is like, well, John, it's Carolyn's work. It's like, John, I love your stuff. I mean, your squeeze and stuff like that too. But if you don't combine it with Carolyn's work, it's, you miss out on some of the timing stuff. And so when you take that stuff and combine it with Carolyn's work, it changed my life. I'm like, oh, well, that's actually a pretty good way to look at it. And so some of the things that we kind of talk about is that you're gonna, this is not something that's easy to learn. I mean, I'll be frank with you. This is not for anyone that's looking for, well, I just want something that gives me a straight signal and I don't have to do a lot of work, right? So if this is stuff that you want to learn how to do yourself, you've got to be willing to roll up your sleeves and do it. It is a skill that not a lot of traders have, okay? It's very, very attainable if you're willing to kind of do the work and understand the process. Now, what's great is that Carolyn actually will also do the work, okay? And so she does it on the indexes. You can actually see her work and the timing and stuff like that too. But it does add a new dimension to your trading when you're able to kind of understand and do this yourself. It's just a huge thing. So the goal with stuff like this, okay, is to learn how to recognize optimal trade conditions, okay? Now, I want to say that again, learning how to recognize optimal trade conditions, because most of the time, and this is something that escapes a lot of people, because a lot of times as a trader, it's always like, oh my God, I got to be doing something here. The market's going up. I got to be long. The market's going down. I got to be short. As opposed to is that really asking yourself, is the market right now in an optimal trade condition? Because if it's not, you're really just playing with fire. You're taking your hard-earned capital and putting it at unnecessary risk because you have not identified or learned how to identify or have tools that help you identify optimal trade conditions, okay? So one of the most important things that Carolyn's work tells you to do is it tells you loud and clear when to stand aside and stay out. Now, a lot of times, if you don't have stuff like this, and you don't understand what an optimal trading condition looks like, what happens is the trader experiences FOMO. That's fear of missing out. So it's like, oh my gosh, I got to be invested. But if you've got a clear identification process in place that tells you this is not an optimal condition to be trading right now, you're going to feel less guilty about not trading. You're just going to sit there and say, you know what? Okay, cool. I'm going to go read a book. I'm going to go to the movies, because it looks like, according to this, the optimal trading condition is going to happen in about 2 days. So in the meantime, I'm not going to piss away my capital on subpar trades. I'm going to wait for these high probability to setups. And now that I know I've got a clear picture of when and how that's going to look, I don't have to stress. Okay, that's the difference. So is just being able to identify crystal clear entry and exit signals and strategies. And then you learn the skills of trade management around that. These setups, what's great about these, if you learn to be patient, the minimum is a 1-to-4 risk-reward ratio, risking 1 to make 4. That's great. Why screw around with other subpar, non-optimal trade conditions when you can wait for this to happen, right? So what I love about this is it allows for some flexibility, but it does not allow for any emotional wiggle room. And as a trader, emotional wiggle room is typically to the detriment of the trader, okay? But it does give you the ability to adapt to a situation that may not line up perfectly. So these principles are what I come back to when I get confused, okay? If I'm looking at the markets, I'm like, okay, is this thing going up or down? It doesn't make any sense here. I go and look at Carolyn's work. All right, get on the phone. All right, what do you got for timing? What do you got for cycle analysis here? I need to get back in alignment because the markets are crazy. And Carolyn just lays it out. And after that, I breathe a deep sigh of relief because now the way is clear. All right. And the other thing about this is that once you have and understand what an optimal trading condition looks like, then all of a sudden the trade entry and management methods are easy to do, okay? Because your entries at that point are now accurate and objective. At that point, you're going to be trading with a lot less stress, okay? And also, the main thing what I found here is with this work, because look, when you say you're going to buy something, just because you buy something doesn't mean it's going to take off and you're going to live happily ever after. You could buy something and it could try to shake you out a little bit. But with this work, you get the precise levels to know if it's working or not, okay? And what I've seen with this is that as you're doing this, okay, and so here's some levels right here and some time, and it comes down, and let's just say maybe you get in, but it's still taking a couple days, but you have a clear objective as to if it's failed or not. So a lot of times people will sit there and be in a trade for a couple days and it's not working. Because it's not working, it's kind of causing them anxiety. And because they have anxiety, they get out, and then shortly after that, it takes off. Okay, this eliminates that, which is great. Okay, emotional trading does not work. Now, when I talked earlier about people I've talked to and clients that I've talked to that have said that of all the stuff that we do here at Simpler Trading, Carolyn's work has had the highest impact on their trading. Here's a couple of things that I'm talking about here. Carolyn, I felt the need to thank you for teaching me to trade using your work. I have used these tools to help make my trading decisions for the last 7 years. This last year to date, you have helped me make 6 figures with my options and stock trades. I have a day job, so your nightly videos are critical for me personally, along with the charts you update. I have your book, which has also been a great tool. Thank you again for helping me be a better trader, Esteban. And then this one, I won't read the whole thing, but kind of, again, gives you an idea of the type of folks that have tried Carolyn's work and have kind of made, cross the chasm, so to speak. Carolyn, I've been trying to trade for 18 years to replace my wages as a long-haul truck driver in Australia. I've been following your work for the past 8 months, both on YouTube and now as a member of the Simpler Options Fib classroom sessions. I have to start at 11:30 at night and I finish at 6 a.m. here in Sydney. That's my commitment to your studies. You have transformed my life to finally realize my dream of being able to support myself with enough income to stay off the highway. Okay, that's huge. Again, from someone who's just like, okay, who's been fumbling around with different trading strategies, it come onto this. And again, I want to read this whole thing here, just a quick excerpt. Dear Simpler Trading, one evening I was watching, in 2015, I was watching Jim Cramer's Mad Money show on CNBC, and she showcased Carolyn's work. My gains have been substantial, and my trading portfolio now has a value of very close to $6 million. Okay, and obviously he started with a bigger account. I am grateful to Carolyn for her diligent work over the past few years. She is a true professional who really does care about her subscribers. Here's the takeaway. Carolyn has simplified my investment process. I have no need for any bells and whistles for my trading. The days of frantic trading are done, and the fewer trades I do now are far more possible, Neil. So again, that's the kind of stuff where it's transforming people's lives, okay? And that's the kind of stuff that I think is awesome. And even this morning in our trading room, a couple folks in there talking of everything I've learned in this trading journey. Fibonacci and timing is the most amazing, and Carolyn's accuracy is frankly incredible. And then I agree. She didn't invent it, but man, she's a genius with it. And again, over and over again, people are always wondering, like, okay, what are the levels here? So what's the idea with this? Yeah, and I'd love for you guys to be able to write us a note a year from today saying, hey, you know what? I got into Carolyn's work, and my God, that really changed my life. That's the only reason we're here, right, is to provide information to change people's lives, because it's like, otherwise, this is a tough road to hoe. So what are our objectives here? Transformation. Okay, everyone on the prior slides transformed their trades, and by doing so, transformed their lives. Imagine never having to take a trade based on emotion or FOMO, okay, fear of missing out, or guesswork. Okay, I'm able to kind of set up your process where each and every trade is precise and objective. It means you're waiting a lot, but guess what? Now you're comfortable waiting because you know that you're not missing out on anything because you're not trading the crap. So I want you to leave this with a full understanding of cycle timing, precise entries, 1-to-4 risk-to-reward ratios, and a clear idea of when to stand aside. This is a tactic that will make or break your trading career. One of my favorite things I heard, it was somewhere in London at a talk, it's a hedge fund talk, and the guy was like, don't piddle away your chips, mate. And just the idea that if you've got a subpar condition, hold on to your wallet, okay? Hold on to your cash. You want to be prepared for when the big move happens. You want to be prepared for when the timing happens. You want to be prepared for when the elephant walks by. And if you're busy piddling away your chips, which the American version of that is pissing away your capital, you're going to not only miss out on those big opportunities when they come by, and the beautiful thing about this is it makes those opportunities crystal clear, but you may be so mentally fried by the time it comes by, you may not even be able to handle it, okay? So of everything we do, this is for people who embrace it, the biggest factor in someone attaining superior results and resulting in a trading life of more ease and less frustration. It basically means you're trading less, you're having less stress, but you're making more money, okay? I want that for you too. So to leave you with the knowledge of how to time cycle highs and lows with precision, I want you to have 3 full days of live trading with Carolyn, myself, Henry, and Danielle to fully understand how to identify setups, how each of us use Carolyn's work with our own strategies, and how to swing and day trade in a way that is less stressful, more consistent, and less unsure, okay? And then objectives, last but certainly not least, how to grow an account even if you have struggled in the past by learning the skill of how to predict your trades in advance, okay? This is the only way on the planet that you can do that. So we are going to be holding on October 19th a timing mastery class. And on a Saturday, there's going to be 4 of us helping Carolyn, or 3 of us helping Carolyn out. And if you go to this page here at simplertrading.com/mastery, okay, we're going to have this on Saturday, October 19th. I think that this $397 investment is one of the best investments you're going to make in yourself and in your life, and in terms of an ROI, hundreds of times over the course of your life. In this class, this is going to be a long, intense class, okay? It's going to be recorded. You're going to have Carolyn, myself, Henry, and Danielle, all talking about not only how we use Carolyn's work, but kind of the tips and tricks and triggers we use to time this stuff. Carolyn uses Dynamic Trader. Henry will show you all the ways that you can use this in Thinkorswim. I will show you the ways that I combine this with my work, okay? And then Danielle it is a mainstay of what she does as well. Oh, sorry, it's not October, right? Why do I think it's October? So now fast forward, we're now into January. So yeah, so it's going to be January 19th, not 10 months from now, but next Saturday. And it'll be from 12 noon on. So that's going to be that. And then we're going to have the pro version of the class where we're going to have 3 live trading days. So essentially here you're going to dive into the strategy, and then here for 3 days you're going to get a chance to see that unfold. And then for those of you that like our live events, we're actually going to have our live Austin mentorship coming up. All right. And if you would like to sign up for that, that includes all of this. And then of course, let's dive into some more stuff here and then we'll answer some questions. Yeah, well, I don't know what I was thinking with October. So here again, a few more details on this, and Carolyn and I are happy to stick around here and answer questions and things like that. A couple things I want to show you here. So Saturday, January 19th from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m. Central. Again, this is going to be an intense class. It'll be recorded. You're going to want to go back and review this recording multiple times, okay? This is Carolyn's work here, and basically what we're going to be doing with this is also, in addition to Carolyn showing her work, then myself, Henry, and Danielle not only showing you how also that we utilize her work, but then Henry can also come in and show how he can do a lot of the stuff that Carolyn does on Thinkorswim, okay, and other platforms like that. So that'll be what the Saturday class will entail. And then for me personally, my thought is that if you're going to spend the time to do something like this little added bonus of doing 3 days of live trading with us, where you're going to actually see this in action. You're going to see us taking live trades in real time, which you can follow along. By the way, the vast majority of the time we do a live trading class, trading a 1 lot, you can make enough money to actually pay for the class. It's kind of this great phenomena. Again, it just seems to happen almost all the time. So we will be doing the live trading January 23rd, 24th, and 5th during market hours. And, the live trading class we do tend to be everybody's favorite thing that we do. Do we have a live trading room? Yes. And in the live trading room, what we're doing is just kind of, we're, if there's nothing going on, we're kind of shooting the shit. We're seeing what setups are happening. We're doing some trades. But in a class, it is a focused, curriculum-based amount of time where at the end of it, we have a specific objective that we want you to learn. And in this case, it happens to be the complicated but very learnable strategy of three-dimensional timing using price, time, price and time and symmetrical analysis. Okay, if you are not familiar with this, it is going to blow your mind. And if you are familiar with this, it's a great refresher course to really hone in your skills. Every time I listen to Carolyn, I learn something new. And then, of course, if you are interested, we do about 1 or 2 live events a year. The live events are awesome. You meet other great traders. It's like it'll be a 2-day event. 2 or 3 day event in Austin, Texas. We've got a great venue for it. We do live trading, we do classes, we have a poker night, and it's a lot of fun. Now, also, for those of you that are here, the first 250 people who sign up for Carolyn's class will get the Fibonacci 101 course for free. So if you're newer to Fibonacci, this is a great way to get up to speed on some of the basics of Fibonacci, retracements, extensions, and things like that too, because that is something that will come in line in the class, but on a much more advanced level, because we'll be using Fibonacci's from multiple time frames. So at least if you're new to this, the Fibonacci 101 course will give you the basics, okay? And even if you do know this stuff, believe it or not, even when I look at the Fibonacci 101 course, I sit there and have a couple of aha moments like, oh, man, I forgot about the 786 retracement, right? This is a $197 class, and again, for the first 250 signups for this class, it will be included, okay? And by the way, for those of you that you may have heard that we have launched a platinum program and a titanium program. If you are a member of those, all of this is included for free, okay? So what this is that the platinum is basically an all access pass to everything that we do, okay? And then titanium is all access plus mastermind groups with myself and a couple of the traders. Okay, so there's some new programs that we rolled out. So if you're a member of either one of these, everything that we're talking about here is included. So if you're interested in that, give us a call and we can tell you about it. And I love that picture of Henry. Okay, so at this point, Carolyn and I are happy to answer your questions. And again, I'm just going to leave this slide up here and to say, again, the link here, if you go to simplertrading.com/mastery, there are a handful of classes if you're a trader that will change your life. This is one of them. Once you learn time and price analysis and you're able to kind of see and plan out these trend changes in advance, it just changes your trading. It's kind of like less stress, less trading, more money. You'll be more agreeable to be around. You'll have more confidence in what you're doing, and you'll actually have fun doing this. So I'm excited for everybody that's just discovering this because it's going to change your life. All right, so I'm going to leave this slide up here. I'm happy to answer questions. If you have a question for Carolyn, I am certainly willing to be shoved aside because Carolyn is the expert here on this. Yeah, and by the way, when you take the class too, you'll also have trials to Carolyn's work and things like that too. So again, if you're not familiar with Carolyn's work, the strategy class is the best way to kind of kick that off. What will you be trading during the 3 days of live trading? So we will be trading typically, the analysis is done on stocks and futures. So we will be trading futures contracts as day trade, as well as options on stocks. Now, when we trade options on stocks, we do a combination of spreads and directional trades. So for example, if there's timing on Amazon, for a low, we might buy calls, or we may do a little something more conservative and sell put credit spreads, okay? Now, here's the beautiful thing about this. If you guys are into options and you know all of the advanced strategies, and if there is a price projection out at a future date, you can do a butterfly around that. So you can risk almost nothing and have this huge home run should it pan out. So there's a lot of cool things that you can do with this, and we'll be diving into that on the Saturday class. Okay, so what is the name of the TOS tool to do the fib work? All right, so there's a couple tools in TOS. It's a little tricky, but once you and Henry's and here's what's happened there is Henry's become the expert of using this in Thinkorswim. So he's learned it from Carolyn. Carolyn will set it up in DT, and then Henry, to a large extent, we can replicate it in Thinkorswim, and so he'll show you how to do all that too. Yeah, so that's the nice thing about this, is that there's not a special, and when we talk about triggers, for those of you that are been with us for a while, I mean, if you're familiar with some of the indicators we use, the multi-EMA cross is amazing, RAF is amazing. So we're going to be using tools that you're already familiar with, and then just kind of showing you how we use those to kind of time this stuff. Okay, I will most likely be at a trade show and I'll miss the live trading. Will it be recorded? Yes. So I would encourage you. So we don't do this, this is kind of like one of those classes where we just kind of do it once, but we record it. So if the live trading is very beneficial, because you can go back and watch the recording, and of course you get the benefit of everybody else asking questions, because a lot of times if one person has a question, 20 people have a question, right? So you'll see all that Q&A there. Is this usable on the TradeStation platform? So TradeStation does have most of the tools for projection of time of price. It's always weird. The timing thing's always a bit goofy. So those are some of the things that we'll talk about there. What is the software required for training? All right, so I know most people don't use Dynamic Trader. That's a software program that Carolyn uses. Otherwise, you can use Thinkorswim. Okay, if you don't have Thinkorswim, guess what? It's absolutely free. So if you're using Charles Schwab or something like that, that's fine. We actually have a link for if you want to open up a Thinkorswim account. And again, it's totally free. So the nice thing is you can use all their tools. You don't have to, put $100 in there. You'll get free data. You have no fees there. And then from there, what happens is then you can use the analysis there and still trade, and wherever you're trading. So I'm just going to put this right here. For free TOS account with special discounted commissions, just go to simpletrading.com/TOS, and then you can get hooked up for that. Very excited to get started. Just got the yeah, awesome. Can I do live trading on different dates though, or does it have to be those specific dates? Okay, Ron, so good question. So those are basically the days that we're doing the live trading. So Carolyn's flying out to Austin. We're going to set up a desk right next to mine. I think we're going to sit next to each other for 2 weeks. So it should be pretty hilarious. We'll probably end up doing room sessions together too. So, so the live trading days are the live trading dates, but again, it'll be recorded. So if for some reason you can't attend it, that's fine. It'll be recorded, and then you can participate that way. Yeah. So that'll be awesome. And if you're, and the thing is too, is like, look, this is one of those classes where I'm a student as well. Like, I'm showing you how I use it, but then when I'm not on the mic, I am listening and taking notes. Not only with Carolyn and what she's doing, but with Henry and how he does it on Thinkorswim. Because I'm sitting there, because I'll sit there and learn stuff on that too. And then I actually like to see, like, okay, now Danielle's doing it like this. This is one of those things where truly we're all in this together. Okay, which is why I love this stuff. It's gonna be a fun class because it's like the four of us truly working together, explaining how we use it, but also getting more understanding and listening to each other how they use it, and also answering all the questions. It's gonna be amazing. Exactly. Do you offer a money back guarantee? So Jason, this is what we've done with this. That's a good question. So here's what I found in the trading universe, is that a lot of times you're going to see stuff like this that's like $4,000 or $5,000 with a money back guarantee. Okay. What I've found with that stuff, and I've talked to people, is that a lot of times the stuff is subpar, and people don't really like it, and they wasted a lot of money. What we do is just say, look, you can look at our reputation. We've got a good reputation. We have lower price classes. Okay. So what I would just say is we don't do money back guarantees because we don't want to attract the type of person that's looking for money back guarantees. Instead, what we do is we price it right and just say, look, try the strategy class. Okay. If you don't like it, I mean, call us, right? But if you don't like it, fine. You don't need to do this, and you don't need to do this. What I found is that when people are like, well, I'm new to your work, okay, great. Here's a low priced offer, okay? And if you find value in that, you'll sit there and say, oh gosh, that was so good, guys. I see the benefit of adding to this, okay? And wow, this is so good. I see the benefit of adding this, all right? So that's just kind of what we do. I know there's firms out there, they charge $5,000 and they do money back guarantees. I know how those businesses work. And the reason they do that is because they're hoping they can live with a 50% refund rate, okay? We don't have, so we just do it. We just want to do it and say, look, we believe in our stuff. We're going to price it right. And we want to work with the type of clients who get that. So I don't know if that totally answers your question, but that's kind of how we do things. Good question. Great question, Jason. Yeah, Jeannie, thanks, Jeannie. She's just saying, I can attest these classes pay for themselves. Yeah, we're not blowing smoke here. This is stuff that we're really using day in and day out. And so that's just kind of what we do. Okay, what else have we got here? Yeah, it's a good question. Will I be able to do this timing by myself after this course using TradeStation? Yeah, so Jason, so a good question there. So you'll learn with TradeStation all of the kind of the Fibonacci based tools. Some of the timing stuff is a little goofy. All right. Now what's nice is that Carolyn will kind of show you how she does it, show you how to get as close to possible on TradeStation, and then you can also check that against her work as well. I mean, look, this is the kind of stuff where this class is so much fun because it is, again, the number one thing where people are like, it's so much fun just to watch how people have gravitated towards this. And once it finally sinks in, it makes their lives easier. They're able to quit their jobs, and they're just able to be more relaxed and make more money. And it's just like, that's why we're here, right? And this is just stuff that you don't see out there because it's hard, okay? You need to have, you can't just read a book and then all of a sudden like, oh, let's do a class on this. Carolyn's been doing this for 30 years, right? I learned from her on this. And I'll be there as a student as well. Even though I'm one of the teachers, I'm excited to be a student as well. I'll probably take more notes than anybody. Yeah, and of course on this we showed a handful of signals. There's signals happening every day. So on an intraday basis, there's signals happening every day. Right now, we're starting to get into some more timing for some potential highs that are setting up for a couple days. So there's always stuff happening in different asset classes. Ralph, John, what makes the simpler trading community so valuable is it is traders teaching traders. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I mean, I think it's kind of obvious if you've been trading for a while, if you're kind of learning, quote unquote, from someone that doesn't trade, but they're good teachers, because not everything works out picture perfectly, right? You gotta learn to adapt on the fly, which is why we're willing to do live trading. That's kind of the put up or shut up moment, right? Okay, great question. So, and I apologize if I butcher your name. I think it's Venkata is asking, can I do the strategy class first and then decide whether to upgrade to pro and pay the difference price? And the answer to that is yes. I mean, we literally make this as easy as possible. So we don't have any gimmicks. There's no, it's like, look, to me, this is a very easy entry price to learn a strategy that's going to change your life. And then from there, you're like, you know what? Okay, I hadn't done any class with you guys. It's up to us. It's up to us to deliver so much value in that class that you're like, all right, got it. I'm going to this one too. Okay, and then maybe, then not as many people are going to do the live event, which I get. But I would encourage that for people that are doing strategy, that to see where they can make enough money, doing this one as well. And so that's kind of the whole idea. That's kind of our philosophy behind doing all this. I know this is a way out there question. Can you set up scans? Okay, so it's a good question. This is one of those things where you kind of have to do the work on the indexes. There's not at least we have not found a way to push a button and do an automated way to say, oh, here's timing. However, the nice thing is Carolyn does do work on this. And so we'll give a list of things. Hey, here's a list of things where some timings have coming up. Carolyn keeps threatening that she's going to retire soon. So it's like, all right, if you guys want to learn this, you want to learn it quickly. Although, Carolyn, I don't know what you're going to do with yourself if you retire. I'm sure, but being in Vegas, you'd at least start sleeping in. Dates of the live trading, it is, it's the, gosh, is it 23rd, 24th, 25th, if someone can confirm? So this is Jan 19th. Yes, okay. And then this is Jan 23rd through the 25th. And again, Carolyn will be coming to Austin. We'll be sitting next to each other side by side. It'll be a lot of fun. Yeah, October, thanks. Yeah, okay. And again, for those of you that are newer to this whole concept, remember, if you sign up tonight, the first 250 are going to get a copy of Carolyn's Fib 101 class. And again, this is just kind of it's a foundation that, again, if this whole thing, this whole concept is new to you, this will, at least you'll come in there with some knowledge, okay? Because you do gotta, a lot of this is Fibonacci based. It's Fibonacci price, it's Fibonacci time. And if you know how to look at this and combine all of it, but you wanna know the basics. You wanna know how to draw basic fibs, and that Fibonacci 101 class will set you up for success there. Even if you do understand it, I've gone through it and it's like, oh man, I forgot about that one. Some of the extensions and things like that too. I always learn something when I'm listening to Carolyn. 12 to 3 on the 19th. So Joel, there's going to be 4 of us teaching. So it'll be like 12 to 6 is my guess. Trout fisherman, I believe so. Yeah, I don't know why it wouldn't. Yeah, I'll just contact support. The email for support is just support@simplertrading.com. Is that Fib class for the strategy sign up? Yes. So the Fib 101 for the first 250 people that sign up for anything, okay? For anything, whether it's the strategy or this one, the first 250 people will get a copy of that Fib 101 class. Can I join you all in Austin? So not for the class, because for the class, it's going to be, we are all tech-based. We're going to be on computers. We're going to have microphones, and there's literally not going to be a place for someone to sit and watch. And of course, we're going to have to be focused on on the people that are signed up. However, during this is live in Austin. So if you want to meet us or hang out with us in Austin, this is, and of course, this includes all of that. Are the voodoo lines in any way related to the Fibonacci levels? No. So they're not. Sometimes they do line up, which is interesting. It's actually interesting too, because believe it or not, time and price analysis also does bring into account some basic Elliott wave, and that's what voodoo lines are into. So there is this nice kind of piece of the puzzle there where you kind of, you understand pattern, price, and time, and all of a sudden all this stuff just kind of comes together. Excellent. Yeah. Well, no, awesome. So, and also during this class, we'll also show you all the tools and stuff that we're using to time the stuff for those of you that are newer, things like voodoo lines or anything like that. And then during the class, what we typically do is we'll set it up where you guys can have like a coupon code if there's any additional stuff that you would like that you don't have. But yeah, it'll be a magical time for sure. And it's a great time to do this. I mean, this stuff works great in any market, but it's so great for these volatile markets because you can trade much more relaxed and much more confidently that way. It's a Sherry, yeah, it's a long day. I think Mandy was here at 6 o'clock this morning. Would it be beneficial to get through the Fib 101 class prior to Saturday's class? Yes. So Jason, if you're new to Fibonacci, absolutely yes. If you're very, very familiar with it, it's not as critical. But it gives you an idea of kind of Carolyn's style, right? Kind of the things that she's focused on. I'm biting off more than I can chew, but I'm chewing it. This is worth it. Yeah, this is one of those things where I get excited for people that are first getting exposed to this because I know the impact it's going to have on their lives. So that's the fun part. Thank you, Carolyn. I did sign up for the strategy class. The recording for class day, how long will it be available after January 19th? Okay, if I understand your question right, well, first it'll be available within about 24 hours, but then it's available as long as you're, it's yours, right? So, I mean, essentially once you kind of pay for a class, you have access to the recording. So yeah, the recording doesn't go away. Yes. So will the strategy class be recorded so I can watch it over and over again one more time? Absolutely yes, and I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. Is it worth doing fib price or time in conjunction with pivot points? I always like to know what other things are out there. For me, it's all about, you get when things are kind of overlaying each other, and we'll talk about that. If you get a fib cluster with timing and like, a squeeze or a voodoo line, it's just that much more gas in the engine. Do I need Dynamic Trader to do this? You do not. It's definitely Carolyn's choice of software, and it's built specifically for this. So, it's something to consider, but it's not something that you need for this class. I don't have it. So I use, I'll use it on I use like Thinkorswim and stuff like that. I've read her book and practice symmetry. Who would you recommend as a mentor to a somewhat experienced trader? So Adil, if you haven't taken this, if you have not gone through one of Carolyn's classes, I would first recommend that you do that, because that's going to get you up to speed. And then from there, if you would like to do more of a, kind of a one-on-one mentorship with Carolyn, that's something that you can talk with her about. But I would definitely, you got to go through the class and get the basics first. And if you're an experienced trader, that's awesome. But if you're newer to this concept, I would first do that. Yeah. Okay, Drew. Good point. So, and I think that's something too, where maybe it's the, part of what we wanted to do with this is get that extra time on the TOS platform, because I know for those of you that don't have Dynamic Trader, and it's just spending time making sure it's like, boom, this is how you do it. Is there a basic fib class? Yes. So again, remember, if you're one of the first 250 people that sign up, you're going to get a Fib 101 class, which is basic fibs, and that will get you up to speed. Okay, so that you walk into this with your game face on. You're like, okay, got it. So I would highly recommend, if you're newer to this concept and you're one of the first 250 people to sign up for this class, watch that class, okay, before Saturday, January 19th, not October 19th. In my prior question that you answered, you mentioned this class is covered as part of my Platinum membership. Yes, so HW, if you are a Platinum member, this is all included. You do not need to sign up. Great question. Even if you're not new to Fib, it would be good to review Fib 101. Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, the thing is every time I listen to Carolyn, I learn something new, and I've used Fib for, a long time. Yeah, Prakash. So the voodoo lines, I mean, that's a longer discussion. If you're going to be in the class on Saturday, we'll talk about them. We have some information on the site, but we'll certainly be we'll certainly talk about some of the other tools that we use in conjunction with this. I just signed up. How do I know I'm the first 250 to sign? I think you're good. I think about 200 people have signed up so far, so I think you're good. There's more than one way to hold a whip. I love it. When will be the next set of classes? Well, we don't actually have this class scheduled again this year. So this is kind of, if this is something that you're looking at and you're like, oh, the timing doesn't work, I'm going to be out of town, I'd still get it and just do the recording. Like, you're going to get just as much out of it looking at the recording. When will the Fib 101 class be available? Okay, Trade Hog, good question. Oh, nice. Okay. I think fairly quickly. If anybody knows the answer to that, but I believe it's either going to be automatic when you sign up or within 24 hours. Yeah, and again, remember, if you did sign up at the end of the year for the kind of the platinum or the titanium, this is all included, which is great. If you're interested in becoming a titanium or platinum member, just give us a call. Basically, it's like an all access kind of a pass. Yeah, so HW, yeah, so you're totally fine. Yeah, so you're good to go. We'll get you, you'll have access to everything that you see there. Plus, we can get you the Fib 101 as well. Oh, okay. Thanks, Cole. So Cole's just saying, hey, John, the Fib 101 class is delivered immediately. Okay, so you signed up and you got it immediately. Great. So yeah, so it looks like there's like a little over 220 people that have signed up. So still the next 30 that sign up will still get the Fib 101. So that's great. Okay, Ron C. John, this TOS sign on for the free account seems to be a general TD Ameritrade page. Oh, okay. So to clarify, when you go here, you do have to fill out an account. So if you go to simpletrading.com/TOS, you do need to fill out their account forms like you're opening an account. Okay. So that you got to fill, you got to check all the boxes and all that. Now, the good thing is they don't charge you any fees. They don't charge you for data. And if you put in like $100, you can get real-time data instead of delayed. And again, that $100 is yours. You can take it out later. Does that make sense? But yeah, you got to open up an account with them. Yeah, and you can do the timing cycles on TOS. It's Dynamic Trader is set up for this specifically, but I know a lot of people don't have that. So the nice thing is TOS over time has listened to Carolyn and added tools over time, and we'll certainly show you how to use those as well. Oh, really? They're starting to charge for real-time data? You'll start paying in February 1st, 2019. That's the first I've heard of that, Joe. Is it for ICE data or is it for CME? Anyway, I'll check that out. That's the first I've heard of that. Okay, so John, you're saying that I'm trying to get this class, but page cannot be found. Okay, well that's not good. Send us a note. We'll make a note. So you're trying to get it, so we'll make a note to make sure you get the Fib 101 class as well. So apologies for that. Sometimes if our server gets overloaded, we may have some of that. Awesome, guys. Well, I think that's, if there's any other questions, happy to stick around. But otherwise, thank you guys for joining us tonight. I'm going to leave this page up here. Carolyn and I will both also hang around and just type in answers to questions and things like that. But I think we got most of them. Again, I think this is going to be an amazing class. I am very much looking forward to it. I love that the four of us, myself, Carolyn, Henry, and Danielle, are going to get to work together on a Saturday. We're going to be able to trade together for 3 days. And I think it's going to be fun. This is just going to be a fun class. And we're going to learn a lot and change a lot of people's lives. And that'll be awesome. Cool, guys. Yeah, if you guys have questions, Ixtan, if I'm saying that right, yeah, well, certainly, no worries there. We'll make sure that you get, if there was a coupon or something like that, we'll make sure that that's all applied, or, obviously you can double check with that. Oh, sure. Okay, so what is the Austin mentorship? Thanks for asking. So this is, what this is, okay, this is a live event in Austin, Texas in April. So you travel to Austin, stay in a hotel. We typically limit this to about 75 people. Like I do not want to spend 3 days with 300 people. That's just, I would rather have a smaller group, can kind of get to know them and stuff like that too. So that's just my thing. I don't like large crowds for a long time. So we limit it to about 75 people. Again, $39.97. It includes this. And then what this is that, so what I like about the live events is that if I really want to learn something, I like to hop on a plane and go fly because of two things. One, it gets me out of my environment, okay? Because when look, in Austin, Texas, I'm busy, okay? It's distracting. I've got a wife, I've got kids, I love them dearly. I've got things to do. If I really want to go immerse myself into something and learn something, then I will hop on a plane and go to somewhere for like 3 days, and then I can shut off the rest of the world and I can immerse myself and learn lots of stuff. So part of that is that you can sit there and kind of think about something for 6 months, a little bit here and there, and reach some profound conclusions, or you can immerse yourself into something for 72 hours and through all that have a lot of kind of realizations through that intensity that kind of changed the game. Plus, you just meet a lot of cool people. The people that are willing to drop that much money to get up on a plane and learn more about trading. They are dedicated to trading. You're going to meet them, and they're going to become lifelong friends. So I like it, and I just like to have the opportunity too. We spend a lot of time talking into a microphone. This is a time we can sit down and have a glass of wine with people, or a glass of water, play some Texas Hold'em. It's just fun. Yeah, if you guys are having any problems registering, we'll make a note. We'll make sure you still get the Fib 101. Again, sometimes we're a small company, our servers sometimes get a little overloaded, but we'll make sure that you're taken care of. Perfect, guys. Yeah, Andrew, exactly. It's like if you want to learn Spanish, go move to Mexico for 3 weeks or 3 months, and you're going to come out hablas español. Do you have a partnership connection with any hotels in Austin for a discount? So yes, the place that we do it at is at the AT&T Center. I do have a connection at a couple of hotels like Congress Hotel and stuff like that. So there's a lot of places to stay in Austin right around that area. Awesome, guys. Very possible, Todd. Yeah, 3 months, you might not come back. Awesome, guys. Well, I'm going to leave this page up here. Again, Carolyn and I will be hanging out, typing in questions. Super much looking forward to this class. You guys have a great night, and see you on January 19th with bells on.